the anatomy of political cover. That's what we're talking about today. But what is political cover? That's probably a foreign term for a lot of people. Political cover is when a politician tricks you into think they're doing one thing when really they're doing something else. So in particular, I'm talking about Representative Lislegard because he pulled a somewhat masterful political cover move last night, late last night, 10:30 at night, that we're going to review here today. And we're going to try to break this down in a way that's easily digestible because, as always, what they're saying and what it appears they're doing is one thing, but what they're really doing is something else. So they're trying to provide themselves political cover for the 2022 election. For the last week, we've been hearing omnibus bills, these massive multi-subject bills that are frankly unconstitutional. But one of the ways that the politicians down here use these omnibus bills is to file amendments onto them. These half-hearted amendments, oftentimes half-hearted amendments, are meant to serve as political cover for them for their re-election efforts. But let's go back a week, because 1 week ago, during one of these debates on the House floor, an amendment was brought up to essentially allow permit to carry holders, this is a Second Amendment issue, permit to carry holders the ability to electronically renew their permit. This was brought forward by a Republican, but it was Representative Lislegard's language for a bill that he introduced that for some reason never went anywhere. So that was his first attempt at political cover, quite honestly. This bill was brought forward, it was ruled out of order, and Representative Lislegard sided with the Speaker that it was out of order. And this language was being scorecarded by an issue advocacy group, a gun rights group in the state, so it was well known that this was going to be a bad vote for Representative Lislegard. So that kind of sets the table as to what happened last night. Because last night, the Republicans introduced probably 8 or 10 or 12 pro-gun amendments to the public safety omnibus bill. The omnibus bill that is most oftentimes used to push for these amendments. For years, this has been the omnibus bill that is used for any Second Amendment legislation. But the Democrats, the Speaker of the House, was shutting down debate on every single one of these things, calling them out of order. And even Representative Drazkowski noted that this is unusual. This never happens when we bring pro-gun legislation to the public safety omnibus bill. And was inquiring as to why is suddenly everything out of order. And here is why. It's because Representative Lislegard was bringing forward an amendment that would do the same thing that he voted against a week ago, allow permit to carry holders to renew their permits electronically. Let's cut to the video of this plan that Representative Lislegard obviously had concocted and coordinated with the DFL majority.
It is for permit to carry application renewals may be accepted in person, electronically, or by United States mail at the sheriff's discretion. And I would appreciate everyone to support this amendment.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to a point of order under Rule 3.21, germaneness. This amendment is not germane to the bill. The bill does not relate to firearms in this way. I will note that there is the briefest of references, simply a word change, a chapter, and Madam Speaker, I'd ask that you find the point of order well taken.
I find the point of order well taken.
Madam Speaker, I appeal the ruling of the Speaker and request a roll call vote.
So as you can see, quickly, immediately after, Representative Lislegard just sort of half-heartedly throws this thing out there. No passion, no emotion, clearly doesn't really care. Representative Pinto quickly says, this is out of order. And then the Republican minority leader forces a roll call vote just to see how are these people actually going to vote, because a roll call vote puts people on the record, where traditionally it would just be a voice vote and you would never know how anybody voted. What ensues is a handful of questions attempted to be asked of Representative Lislegard, but you can see his immediate emotional response and calling out or trying to call out Republicans for playing games when it's obvious that it's Representative Lislegard that's playing games.
Can you tell me whether in public safety chapters, whether or not the concept and discussion around permits to carry is contained within that bill?
Representative Lislegard.
Madam Speaker and Representative Nash, I think that this is a wonderful amendment. I understand all the discussion and the political games that is taking place.
If Representative Lislegard would yield for a question.
Representative Lislegard, will you yield to a question?
Madam Speaker, I'm not playing these games. It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. I'm extremely disappointed that the games were played on the House floor on my amendment that it should have passed.
Madam
And it is
Speaker?
what
I'm
it
going to
is.
take that as a no. Representative Lucero.
That's well, I didn't hear a no. So, Madam Speaker, would Representative Lislegard yield for a question?
Representative Lislegard, would you yield to a question?
It's going nowhere, so no, I'm not.
If we have learned anything from Rush Limbaugh over the years, it is that liberals do this. They project. What they project onto their political opposition is actually what they themselves are guilty of and what they themselves are doing. That's exactly what Representative Lislegard did last night when he accused Republicans of playing games when it was actually him playing the games. So then the clerk takes the role of how each individual person is voting. And as you can see here, there are both red votes and green votes. In this particular case, this vote is are you going to side with the ruling of the speaker or not? So a green vote means you agree with the speaker that this is out of order. A red vote means you disagree with the speaker and you wish for this amendment to continue upon the path. As you can see here, Representative Lislegard, he sided against the speaker, which would be considered a pro-gun vote. But 1 week ago, on the exact same language, he sided with the speaker. And it's noteworthy to show over here that Representative Sandsteed, she capitalized on this political cover, and she also chose to vote against the speaker on this particular amendment. What makes this even more interesting is both of these state representatives, Lislegard and Sandsteed, voted to end the peacetime emergency all of last summer, all of last fall, all of last winter until January. Then they flipped their vote and started siding with leadership. These people are con artists. So I guarantee you, mark my words, Representative Lislegard, Representative Sandsteed are going to use this vote to go back to their constituents in the Iron Range and say, look at us. We're pro-gun because of this vote right here. And further, they're going to say, see, we aren't pawns of political leadership. We don't take direction from Melissa Hortman. We do our own thing. Mere seconds later, the very next amendment from Representative Nash contains the exact same language. Even Representative Pinto, the DFLer from the Twin Cities here, he even says this is the exact same language as the previous amendment.
Well, Madam Speaker, I rise to a point of order pointing out that this is a duplicative amendment. We've had a ruling on the exact same language just previous to this one, Madam Speaker.
You can tell what Representative Pinto wanted to make sure of is he did not want a roll call vote on the next amendment because he knew this would expose Representative Lislegard for being the fraud that he is. So to kill this next amendment, the Democrats used the exact same language and they challenged it out of order for the exact same reason they challenged Lislegard's amendment to be out of order. But watch the vote board now. Notice now Representative Lislegard, on the exact same language that he had just voted on mere seconds earlier, he sided with Speaker Melissa Hortman. And notice over here, Representative Julie Sandsteed, well, she does the same thing, goes back in, falls in line with party leadership, and votes to support the Speaker's ruling. It's incredibly disingenuous. This is the epitome of political cover. But we cannot let the Republicans off the hook because last night they introduced all sorts of really good pro-gun amendments like stand your ground legislation, constitutional carry legislation, and it makes them look like they are champions for the Second Amendment. But where were these same amendments in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, the 4 years that those same Republicans held the majority of this body? They killed Stand Your Ground. They killed constitutional carry. They refused to lift a finger to advance that legislation. But last night, they conveniently choose that opportunity when they know that legislation is dead on arrival. They introduce it to make themselves look like champions. And I guarantee they will do the same thing that Lislegard and Sandsteed did, and they'll go back to their constituents and say, look at us. We pushed constitutional carry. We pushed stand your ground, but it was completely insincere. That, once again, is political cover.